We are here with Federico Mayor Zaragoza, and we are going to ask him a quick question about UN. So tomorrow will be the 70th anniversary of the entry into force of the UN Charter. Could you please tell us which is your personal evaluation concerning the last 70 years, and what are the most important reforms you think the UN needs in order to achieve the goals of the future?
Well, the reform must be to be United Nations, because from the very beginning there were some countries or some parties of these countries, for example, the Republican Party of the United States, that do not like the United Nations. And there, in the extent that they are not very united, then the role that have played is less than could be expected. However, during many years, they have done an excellent job. But afterwards, we started to say, well, now instead of aids, we are going to give loans. Very bad. Instead of cooperation, we are going to make direct exploitation. And the worst, of course, was when the neoliberalism in the 80s said, now no more democratic principles. Now what we want is only market ways of action. And was very, very bad, because they, as you know, they have said now, United Nations aside, and what we want now is to put into function the G6, the G7, the G8, the G20. It's a disaster, this. How can we accept that 8 or 7 or 20 countries have in their hands the reins of our common destiny? If we are 193 countries in the United Nations, therefore this must be changed rapidly. We must say no to one kind of economic system that is being a disaster, and we must, in my view, at least for the processes that can have no point of return, because now, for the first time in history, we are facing challenges that this generation, as Obama has said, we must face, because we can be the first and the last, because afterwards we can arrive to points of no return. As a scientist, I know that there are what we call irreversible processes. This is an irreversible process: environment, the very, very important disparities from the social point of view, the nuclear threat. These three aspects, for example, could be dealt with in an extraordinary session of the United Nations General Assembly only for this, to say, now these are problems that we cannot postpone. And then perhaps at the same meeting it could be agreed to make an in-depth reform of the United Nations. We have studied all this very, very well. I can assure you that what we want only is to start again this new beginning of the wonderful design of the United Nations that was made by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt.